Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah.
A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Honest J. Nowak. Wow. I suppose the mornings are really going to have a bit of an effect here, but as time goes on, I should be able to do a lot better at this, but for the time being, I probably will have to, I guess, start drinking certain liquids to keep my vocal cords running properly. But I guess I'll worry about that for some other time, because right now, it's time for HJN to come back again with new topics. And you know what? New crossover is certainly coming around. Nerf secrets revealed in HJN. Yep. You can watch back on that HJN episode, especially during the vlogathon. Yeah, the vlogathon basically highlighted that entire moment in which that I was going to have another crossover between HJN and something else. But you know what? Let's just get back to regular subjects for the time being, because a new crossover certainly ain't happening for some time. I know that for sure. But anyways, 569. Okay. This one's also relatively easy for me to talk about. But pretty soon, I'll be getting into some more unfamiliar territory. Until that happens, though, you can expect me to start talking a little bit more about some familiar subjects out there. Because right now, it's time for me to talk a little bit about side effects. Yeah. That does, in fact, kind of bring me back to spring 2018, because at one point, I did have a huge problem with acne. And it was devastating, pretty much. Not just to my health, for the most part, but to my esteem, my reputation, and my inner confidence itself. Of course, those were badly affected because of how long acne stayed around. It wasn't like I was a late bloomer. This was in fact just an ongoing thing that just happened over and over again. Even when I had done everything I could to take care of it, it still kept on coming back. But then in spring 2018, I said enough. And I actually went over to the Aurora Healthcare Clinic, where I met up with a certain dermatologist who was very skilled at correcting this type of acne that happens to carry on into adulthood. And as a matter of fact, this exact dermatologist knew about certain solutions that do exist. And that's pretty much how I ended up with a bunch of capsules relating to a type of drug known as Accutane. It was a pretty powerful, potent substance which would actually allow the hair follicles to shrink to the point where they cannot get clogged with a ton of sebum, the type of oil that is generally used for lubrication in the hairs. And now, I had pretty much spent almost the whole year of 2018 pretty much getting myself high on Accutane. And as a result, there actually have been plenty of different issues of mine that I seem to still have to this day. My body seems to get dehydrated a little bit easily. My eyesight tends to get affected. My hearing tends to get out of control at times. And as a matter of fact, my smell and taste, they do sometimes get lost, or at least just weaken a tiny bit though. Not to the point where I have a total loss of smell or taste. Nonetheless, I was able to get by just fine, and well, you probably can't tell all that good because of, well, the lighting in the room here. But I have fully recovered from all that. Although, I feel like that with all of the side effects that I had been living with for months at a time, it's safe to say that some permanent damage might have come upon. And it could heal, but it might take a long time to recover from any of that. Until then, I'm probably just going to have to hang in there. But of course, this was not the first time that anything like this at this elaborate sort of level had ever occurred. There was at one point where I also had a bit of a skin disorder known as tinea versicolor. This is basically a condition where the pigments or yeasts, as they're referred to as, would sometimes change hue and sport some little blotches on this. I don't know if you could probably tell. There are a few spots in the body where I could show, but I guess because of the community guidelines requirements, it might not be the best time to do so. But of course, I do have a few pictures up on my Twitter in case you guys want to check any of those out. I have actually been getting more tinea versicolor related patches on my skin all over again. But 5 years ago, pretty much, or maybe 6 by this point, I did have, in fact, a few different types of medications for that as well. I had a couple tablets that I would occasionally take to allow sweat to come out of the body and allow this medication to seep out onto the epidermal layer, which would coat onto the yeast and pigment blotches that would appear, and it would usually help to remove them. On the other hand, there was also this rub-on sort of lotion that I would have. Usually whenever I'm showering, I would turn the water off for a few minutes to apply this rub-on lotion all over certain areas of the body that also had blotches on them. And then of course I would rinse this lotion off at some point. And the lotion itself would also have the same sort of effects as the pill would. They would seep out and absorb into the epidermis, supposedly ridiculing these blotches, which usually cause dryness or paleness of the skin itself, sometimes other effects as well. But I'm probably sure at this point that I'm pretty much having tinea versicolor blotches appear all over again. I have in fact been having a lot of dryness and itchiness, especially when temperatures have been changing. Usually when it's cold outside, that's when I start to itch quite a bit. But now whenever I'm getting hot, that's when certain parts of the body that have blotches on them are also starting to itch. So, I don't know, maybe I might have to go find a way to have this thing done all over again. Or maybe something else could be done, who knows. But no matter the case, there are a lot of things that you could do to pretty much cure yourself of certain conditions and diseases, but be prepared to take on some not so pleasant or even dangerous side effects that could prove to be lethal if you are not careful. But nonetheless, I don't have to suffer from any of those, because I feel like I've gotten through the majority of these issues in my life just fine the first time around that they happened. So, that's pretty much it for today's episode here, today's topic as a whole. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.